Hey guys, it's RodimusPrimal. I'm back with another video, and today I'm going to be bringing you guys my review for 2021's rebooted Mortal Kombat. And this movie has a really high level of expectation for a lot of folks, and they are hoping to finally get a video game adaptation that serves Mortal Kombat well. Well, does it? It's kind of... well, it's a little somewhere in the middle somewhere, and I'm going to talk some non-spoiler stuff first before I actually dive into the spoilers, and when I do, that's where I'm going to get into some of the things that I liked and disliked. So, without further ado, let's sit back, relax, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and let's throw the uppercut. God, that's a bad line. Okay, so with this particular movie, a lot of people were expecting to see it in theaters. Some people were just going to wait to see it on HBO Max, and which is kind of where I saw it, because trying to be able to get tickets to go see a movie is kind of difficult, and trying to plan out a date night is not as easy when you have kids. But I have a long history with Mortal Kombat. And as far as the arcades are concerned, you know, I was playing Street Fighter 2 back in the arcade, and all of a sudden I get a phone call from my friend. He's like, dude, we have to get to the bowling alley like now, because there is a video game there. It's like Street Fighter with blood and guts, and they're ripping people's heads off, and it's nuts. It's crazy. And I'm like, really? So we ended up going, and there's like 30 people there, and everybody's sitting there waiting to try and get into the arcade machine to try and be able to play it. You get your fistful of quarters. You put your quarter like on the top there to let people know, like, okay, well, you're one of the people in line. Like, that's my quarter. That's my spot. And you're going to try and be able to play against somebody else who's playing. And of course, not understanding the controls, you know, you end up getting, you know, cremated in the first, matchup, and the person knows a fatality. And the first fatality that I ever saw was Sub-Zero's head rip, which was like mind-blowing that they actually did fatalities in a game. And then, of course, the franchise grew, and everybody's been playing the games over the years, and they made 2 live-action films. The first one was okay. The second one was so bad that we just make memes out of like all of the bad jokes that are in that movie. And so we're expecting very low expectations when it comes down to a Mortal Kombat film. Well, this one in particular, this whole rebooted movie kind of takes things to the lore that has come out within the past few years as Mortal Kombat is concerned, and expands upon it in its own way for Hollywood consumption. And in a way, it does a really good job of interpreting the games. The first thing, of course, is the movie is rated R, so there's a gratuitous amount of violence, a gratuitous amount of profanity, like a lot of F-bombs, almost to the point where the F-bombs are like, they don't fit the character. Like, you're just like, what? Like, you know, like characters like you expect it out of Cabal and you expect it out of Kano, but you don't expect it out of, like, you know, the protagonist's wife saying it with her daughter right there. Like, it doesn't work. I'm like, so like there are some moments where like the dialogue is just like a little off, and it's not distracting in a sense that why the characters are saying what they're saying. It's just, it's so much that it's like it's over the top, which is exactly what this movie really is. It really does feel over the top, and it tries to incorporate a lot from the games, from the fatalities to the blood, the guts and the gore, which is great. Like, they even incorporated the cheap sweep. if you understand that reference, you know, when someone just sits there and hits, you know, back and low kick 100 times, and they actually do that was pretty neat. The biggest problem that I have with this movie is that they decided to insert a Hollywood creative fighter. You know, they went into Mortal Kombat Armageddon, or I guess the new Mortal Kombat game, and did a creative fighter and said, yep, okay, that's our new character. That's who he's going to be. And his name is Cole, and he is related to another Mortal Kombat character, and which is why he is inserted into the role and why he is who he is. But by the end of it, you're like, man, I can't connect to him. Like, he literally feels like someone's creative fighter was inserted into the storyline of the movie. The other characters themselves, though, they did a really good job with most of them. Most of the Mortal Kombat characters that you're expecting to see out of this are done really well. There are some that you can't wait to see in future films because they do allude to other Mortal Kombat characters in the movie. You know, I'm sitting there watching it going like, I wish this character was in it or that character was in it. And they started adding some characters from like the later Mortal Kombat games, you know, to try and flesh out the cast, which is not a bad thing, but then it kind of like takes away from them being involved in future Mortal Kombat films, and you'll understand what I'm talking about when you see it, which kind of leads me to some fan theories about some stuff. And I do think that some of the characters themselves are miscast. I think that specifically, well, I'll get into that with the spoilers, because I do think that some of them are miscast, even if they played the role as well and as good as they could. It just didn't feel like they fit that character, you know, because that's the thing that people are expecting. People expect a movie about a video game to take the video game and give us a movie representation of it. I don't want to see your Hollywood add-ons and changes that people like to do in order to fit the role of what Hollywood wants. I want to see the video game or the comic book or the cartoon brought to life in a movie, and I want what I saw in the original source material brought to the screen. So that's really where I'm going with it, and you'll understand when I talk about the spoilers. But at the end of the day, I enjoyed the film. I think it was a suitable Mortal Kombat film. It was better than Annihilation for sure. I'm kind of like on the fence about whether or not I think the first movie back in 1995, I believe, and this movie is better in a sense, because I liked that they kept to the storyline in the original movie, whereas this one was more trying to be more true to the games as far as like the violence and the action. So it's kind of like that cross between that both movies are like it's kind of like they're in the middle. But overall, like I said, I enjoyed it. There are things that I didn't care for, but at the end of the day, I definitely recommend it. Now, I'm going to get into the heavy spoiler territory. And the first thing that I want to talk about is the opening sequence where they introduce Sub-Zero and Scorpion. And they bring us back to the 1600s, which is different than the games, because in the video games, Sub-Zero and Scorpion's origin takes place, I want to say, like a few years before the first Mortal Kombat tournament. You know, the first Mortal Kombat game, and the character of Sub-Zero is obviously in present age, so for him to actually be that far into the past kind of makes it a little bit removed, but it's understandable in context to the film because they have to do a creative fighter. And what they literally do is they introduce the character of Cole as the descendant of Scorpion. So Hanzo, who eventually becomes Scorpion, he ends up getting, which, by the way, the fight sequences in this, oh my god, like the blood, like straight up, like smashing people, cutting people, gutting people was like, you know, top notch. Like, and they paid attention to the video games, like what happens if you get, you know, the Scorpion spear thrown at you. What's going to end up happening? How bloody is it going to be? Like, it's pretty gory in that respect. But this character of Cole, man, he's a descendant of Hanzo, and Hanzo obviously becomes Scorpion. And I just don't like his character. I just don't. Like, he literally feels like a creative fighter. And they go through the motions of trying to get him into, you know, to meet up with the other warriors and to join up with them so that he can become one of the Earthrealm champions. And he literally, his powers become plot armor. He gains like this Aquaman-like armor, and he gets like these Tonfa blades, like these Tonfa sticks that are blades as well. And he just, like, they magically appear because like that's his magic power. And they call it Arcana. And it's literally looks like Aquaman, but it's plot armor. Like, I can't describe it to you any other way. It's literally plot armor. And that's his special power. It's so bad. It's just so bad. Like, he detracts from the whole film. Like, you know, he ends up becoming the pseudo leader of everybody. Like, hey, we could do this. Why don't we do this? And they're like, oh, yeah, okay. So they're following him, and I'm like, but he's not supposed to be the leader like Liu Kang or Kung Lao is. And speaking of which, Kung Lao was awesome. Like, straight up, they got his moves right, like the way that he does his blade and the way he does his fatality, which they bring in Nitara from the later games, and she ends up getting killed by Kung Lao and like in this most brutal fashion. But they killed Kung Lao. So they're not afraid to kill characters in this film, which I'm not completely upset about, because I guess maybe they're going to end up reviving some of these characters later down the road. Like, you can't like introduce Kano and like go through the motions of trying to explain how his face gets all kinds of messed up and not have him come back with the metal plate, because he doesn't have the metal plate in the movie, but his eye ends up getting like gouged out by like Sonya, and that's how she ends up getting her marking. And he's a riot. He livens up the whole film in a lot of ways. Like, the one line when Cabal meets up with Kano to convince him to like betray everybody, which he was never really on anybody's side anyway. The line he comes up with, which I don't even want to repeat because, you know, I don't want my kids to repeat some of the stuff. Oh man, like, that's literally something that like you would hear somebody say if you went to the arcade and you were playing Mortal Kombat against other people, and you're sitting there. The dialogue that a lot of the people, a lot of the characters in this film like say to each other is the kind of the stuff that you would trash talk to each other in the arcade. I think like certain characters like Shang Tsung, I didn't like the way he was portrayed. I didn't like what he looked like, his outfit. He just didn't feel like Shang Tsung to me. I think maybe just because I'm used to Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that name, but I'm really used to like that. That seems more like Shang Tsung, that over the top, you know, Shang Tsung that I expect. The actor Chin Han, I believe his name is. He's a good actor, and I've seen him in other roles. I think he was Lao in The Dark Knight. But I didn't feel he was cast well for Shang Tsung. And maybe because I also want to see Shang Tsung look more like the games. So that's something that, like, I'm looking at the character and going, it's kind of works and kind of doesn't. Max Wang, though, like, he was awesome. Like, straight up as Kung Lao. And he's also on Jackie Chan's, like, stunt team. Straight up awesome. I want to see him in more roles. I want to see him in more martial arts films, because he was just straight up awesome. He like fit the role so well. Like, it just, I really, really dug him as Kung Lao, and I was disappointed that he got killed. Really was disappointed, because this Liu Kang didn't, you know, he kind of seemed like a weak version of Liu Kang, and maybe his character is going to see an arc, is going to grow a little bit as the story continues. I want to see where they go with it after the fact. I really liked Jessica McNamee's role as Sonya. I actually dug her really well as well. I liked Makad Brooks, I believe his name is. His portrayal of Jax, just straight up awesome. I know a lot of people are talking about the paperclip looking metal arms that they do, because Sub-Zero ends up freezing his arms, and the arms themselves have to get rebuilt, and so then he gets his Arcana power, which is mechanical, super-powered arms, which I thought that was kind of neat that they did that. They went in and did the metal arms, but they shouldn't have done it before the first film. Like they should have waited, because that's something about Jax that, you know, he didn't get the metal arms until later. So it kind of, you know, because his current portrayal is that he has the metal arms, they had to go through with it in order to do it now. But I guess it's because they're trying to fast forward a lot of stuff, but it's all before the first tournament. And if there's, you know, I liked, you know, Nitara, she looked the part well, but she ended up getting killed really quickly. Like, she shows up and all they're sitting there going is, oh, she's beautiful. Lord Raiden looks awesome, and I like the actor that plays him. I know some people were not too impressed about him, but I think Sub-Zero, Raiden, and Scorpion were perfect casting. So was Kung Lao. You know, Jax in this film, I really liked, you know, Raiden and Kung Lao, and I want to see more of them. I hope that Kung Lao can somehow get revived somehow, some way, because his character dying was kind of disappointing. But then again, Scorpion, when he shows up, he's awesome, right? And he is the one who ends up killing Sub-Zero, which is true to the game, right? Scorpion does kill Bihan Sub-Zero because that Sub-Zero is supposed to become Noob Saibot. And he does so by, like, taking his face off and shoots fire, and it burns half of his face, so you get, like, a showing of part of the skeleton. Then he puts the mask back on, and then takes the mask back off to talk to Cole, and he's back looking like, Hiroyuki Sanada. And I'm sorry if I'm butchering the names, but just looking at it from that perspective, they portrayed him really well. I didn't like the armor. The armor just didn't look like Scorpion to me. They were going for traditional, old school, Japanese samurai armor, which is fine. Just didn't look like Scorpion to me. Maybe because I'm so used to the video games. Again, that's like a big stickler for me, is like I want it to look more like the video game. And they did a decent job of incorporating, trying to bring in the realism with the ridiculousness, if that makes any sense. And I know I'm going into some like nitty-gritty details here, but I'm doing so with the understanding that some people are going to be upset about stuff, and other people are going to be like, this movie was great, it was awesome, it was fantastic, like I just loved like how they did everything, and it was so cool. And I'm in the middle. You know what I'm saying? Like, I enjoyed it. I actually really dug it. I thought it was pretty decent. In the one character of them all that was the biggest letdown to me was Cole, because he just is a creative fighter. Everyone else, I can kind of get past some of the casting choices. I can get past the characters not fully looking like their video game counterparts, because the way they set everything up was done really well, and we still have the video games. It's not like that; those are going away. And I think Reiko, his outfit was just ridiculous. I know they were going for the later Mortal Kombat games appearance for him, instead of looking kind of like a wannabe Lin Kuei warrior. So I'm all right with that. But overall, I think this movie was enjoyable. I think that you're going to have people who are going to be disappointed no matter what, because their expectations are too high. I'm in the middle with it, and I honestly hope that the next movie is done really well, and that they can take this cast and maybe even bring a lot of the actors back for a second time around, even the characters who were killed, and maybe revive them somehow, some way, and maybe we can see them in a future film. But we'll see. I want to know what you guys think. Did you guys see the new Mortal Kombat movie? Of course, leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Be sure to thumbs up this video and subscribe. Check out my other videos as well. I have more coming on this channel, as well as my main Transformers channel as well, so stay tuned for all of that. And as always, guys, until next time, till all are one.